Anyway, welcome to the show. Yeah, we're live now. We're live now. Here we are. Welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a bit of a packed night tonight, so hopefully you can stick around and watch it all. We've got Gavin Parr on tonight, and we've got Gary Flint, and we've also got the under-21s boss Neil Vatcher coming on as well. As always, we're going to be joined by Paul Capaldi. So if all the guys would like to appear like magic right now, how are we going to do this, Paul? Oh, there's Gavin coming on. Evening, Gavin. Gary,
Evening.
Neil.
How we doing, Greg?
All good, all good.
Hello, Greg.
You all right? And Gary, how are you yourself? You all right?
I'm all right.
So we'll kick off tonight. Gavin Parr, how's things been going for you down the road at Redcar?
Started off really well when Jade went away and won my first couple of matches. Leicester, Berwick, and then we did Berwick in the Cup together. And then just had a bit of a.
By the way.
And then we had a bit of a blip at the weekend. We had two hard matches. One against Scunthorpe, who we love their place, don't they? They're a bit of a home track specialists. And then we went to Leicester the night after. Obviously flying at the top of the league. But to be fair, we got off to a really slow start, first three heats. But then after that, I think we lost by 4 after that or something. So taking the positives, we finished 51-39 on both matches against them in this summer trophy. So it's all sort of level, and I'm just hoping that if we do make the playoffs, that we've given them something to think about. That maybe we're not the best team for them to pick.
Yeah, exactly that. But the other thing is, I mean, the loss of Eric Rist must be a major blow to the Redcar side, because that's a hell of a rider to lose at this stage of the season. Yeah,
I think the worst thing, Greg, is that his average last season wasn't brilliant. Eric said he had probably his worst season in British Speedway, with the way the rolling averages work, etc. He didn't start the season brilliant either, but he's just come into form these last sort of 6 weeks. And he's riding like a 9+ man, and obviously his average is only just over 8. So the guests available for him are not what Eric would be doing, and especially we've got a cup match away at Edinburgh, which he's pretty invincible. He's a bit, him and Sam Masters have got that place sort of, sewn up between them. So yeah, it's proven a little bit difficult to get the guests that we want. He's promising to be back on the 26th of August. So that would be brilliant. But you know what Speedway riders are like, being one yourself, that whether it happens or not. But fingers crossed, we hopefully will see him back by the end of this month.
What's he actually done, Gavin? Sorry, Greg.
He's broke his tibia, which I think is the small bone, isn't it?
It's like shin bone,
fib and tib.
Yeah, shin bone, isn't it? Yeah.
But the good thing, he had an operation straight away in Germany, and they found no ligament damage, which they think the ligament is what makes it into a 12-week or a whatever week injury. So he's hoping to be back, as I say, by the end of August. But we have looked to get like a 28-day sort of rider in, all over but it's just proven like really, really difficult. So I think
Greg Blair's listening, Gavin.
You what? Yeah. Coming at number 3, Greg. Coming at
Redcar, so I hear.
Yeah.
I handle that, no bother. But I mean, you've got Danny King. You've got Danny King coming in as a guest for you. Is that Friday night?
This is this Friday. Yeah, we've got Danny, and we've also got him at home to Glasgow, which is a really important league match. So we've got Danny for those two. Allowed to see, we've got Richard Lawson for Plymouth away, and another one anyway, and then Plymouth away, and I can't remember. We've got Lawson twice, Danny King twice, and the only other one is Poole away. We've got Justin Sedgman for Poole. So at the present, we're up to date, but you all know, Gary knows, it's only one injury away from, you know what I mean? It's at the minute I'm sorted, but you just never know, do you?
And you're quite enjoying the role that you've taken on with Redcar.
Absolutely loving it. Yeah, loving it. It's mind these last 14 days have been a huge eye opener. To be fair,
Yeah,
you know, I've done it alongside Jade most of this season, sort of, you know, shadowing him and then sort of, you know, working alongside him. But yeah, the guest facilities, which I don't know how Lawrence Rodgers and how Plymouth are getting 5 guests per match at the moment. Because honestly, well, all my riders, I think on Saturday at Leicester, they were all going, oh, who's been asked off Plymouth? Oh, who's been asked off Birmingham? Oh, who's been, you know, and he must just be literally going through his whole phone book, bless him, you know, trying to get guests. I've struggled getting one, you know.
I think it's difficult, Gavin, as well when it's a Friday night track, because it seems to be a lot of fixtures on the Friday, and like obviously Redcast Friday, and you mentioned Edinburgh. You know, I think it's particularly hard on Fridays. Would I be right in saying that?
Absolutely, yeah. Fridays are so difficult. I'll be honest on here, Gary. I've wanted Leon 2 or 3 times, and I'm like, Leon, no, riding. It's like, you know,
it costs too much money, Gavin. Anyway,
probably would be far too expensive for Redcar. But Fridays do cause huge problems, you know.
Yeah.
It's quite funny because Lawrence Rodgers asked to use him Friday coming. So I rang him to say, you know, Birmingham will probably phone. And he was like, oh, I'm riding for Plymouth. Oh, really? And Plymouth were also after most of the bullets for Saturday afternoon. To which I was like, oh, there's no chance we've got a meeting Saturday night. You know, I didn't let Bomber ride for GB. I'm not going to let you ride for bloody Plymouth. No. You know, like a 3:00 meeting at Armadale, where at that level they're prone to quite a few crashes anyway. I was like, where am I going to get a guest?
Yeah.
So yeah, but he's the amount of people that want him is unreal. It's good for him, but Christ, keeping tracks on him all the time, and obviously the correct protocols that need to be put in place. I.e., you know, like clubs asking clubs and stuff like that. It's getting like a bit of a silly season now. So keeping your finger on top of that is probably one of the harder things.
It's madness, isn't it? You know, absolute madness. As I say, just Friday and Saturday, the amount of calls that the lads had when we were together, as you say, mainly Birmingham, Plymouth, they must have gone through all 7 riders or asked at some stage for one or other of the team, you know.
Yeah. It's
a difficult thing, isn't it, for you? And saying that, Gary, you've got kind of a bit of a different problem with a rider at the moment with the visa. You know, Jonas couldn't ride on Saturday night, and you had to draft in quite a handsome chap to cover for him.
I thought but is there any?
I was going to say, I don't think my signal's the best, and I missed what you said at the end. I knew it would have been a lot of shite. So.
What can you arseholes? Can we do we know any more about what's happening with Jonas's visa? Is it going to be? Is he going to be back for the Plymouth doubleheader?
It's a bit of a minefield, really. It's of getting into UKVI to find out where they are with that. So we're in the hands of the gods. We were told 7 weeks.
Yeah, 7 working days.
Fingers crossed something will come this week, and we'll be able to line up as we hope to. On
because it'd be quite a big miss. Your signal is terrible. He's obviously hiding from the noise that's going on somewhere there. Are you back with us, Gary?
I'm back. I think I might pop out
and go and get some better. Sit next to the router might help, or Gary might still be on dial-up over at Berwick. That's a terrible freeze for him as well. I mean, he's not the most photogenic man in the world, but that's a pretty awful.
Don't be like that, Greg. Don't be like that. And the thing is, if Jonas's visa doesn't arrive in time, then you'll take his place, and you'll do absolutely wonderfully like you always do.
I mean, I would do that. We don't know who they've got in, but I think obviously I can say it because it's myself, but probably I would have been not the last choice, but getting someone to come in at short notice like that and being able to use myself was probably just a handy thing for Berwick. Not to say, because it would be quite a busy weekend with other meetings going on or whatever else. And I'm certain there's a lot more riders maybe with the good cover for Jonas that have got a bit more experience in the championship, because I mean that's only my second meeting of the year at the championship level. And I went out. I got a point from 3, which wasn't it wasn't terrible. And the rides that I wasn't in a point scoring position, I wasn't off the pace. So, but I enjoyed the night. It was a good night. It was a good night at Speedway. There was quite a lot happened. It's been great at Berwick this season, actually. You'll know yourself, Gavin, being there with Redcar. It has been Berwick's been throwing out some great meetings. Just unfortunately not in the for Berwick to win them. But there has been still the entertainment value still there.
Without doubt, yeah. We've hit you like Gary. We've hit very lucky, to be fair, when we've went to Berwick this season. They've had more injuries than than anything. And then when we went on the Saturday before last, and you had been to Glasgow, I think, on the Friday. And I remember doing this show with Gary the weekend before or whatever it was. Gary went, I just want 7 riders. All I would like is 7 riders. And then you look from a red car point of view on the Friday night, and you've got fell excluded, fell withdrawn, and you're thinking, hang on, 5 out of 7 have embedded themselves in the Glasgow fence. And you think, like, from a red car point of view, it was like, right, okay. But I could just feel for Gary, because literally the words had just come out of his mouth the week before that. All I want is 7 fit riders. And basically, I was in the pits, obviously, and poor Theo could hardly walk. Well, you could just see,
And that's without a crash.
and I did. I know I shouldn't sort of feel sorry, but I do, because obviously I love Berwick. I like Berwick, and it was just what Gary had said, and then all of a sudden it was like, this is just all came back and bit him on the arse, because literally 5 of them have had big smashes, and I don't just mean slide offs; they were big smashes. And then we get there on the Saturday, and they've ripped the starts up, incredible, making them some like motocross track, and you're thinking like, they all want something smooth. Surely they're so sore, But hey, that's Speedway. But yeah, normally Berwick, you've got some top class racing around that place, definitely.
I think also, Greg, talking about struggling to get guests, I think it's worth discussing. Like we probably all saw the Birmingham team that they took to Paul on Friday night. I think that's a prime example of how difficult it is, particularly for the championship teams, to fill 1 to 7s. And again, it was a Friday night, and there was obviously other competitions going on last week as well, which probably made it even more difficult. But you've got to have sympathy with these clubs that are struggling to get put riders out.
Yeah, it is tough, and I do I guess when the fans turn up on the Saturday or the Friday night or whatever night that the racing's on, and they're going, oh, we could have got a better guest than that. It's not like the team managers just went, first name in the phone book, boof, come and ride for us. Right, phoned in again.
Right,
that'll do. It's not, I think a lot of fans will think, oh, we've went for the cheap option here or something ridiculous like that. It could, phone calls after phone calls, which will go on all through the night and all. But, these guys have all got full-time jobs as well as team managing. So
well, I was just going to say exactly the same, Greg, and obviously Gavin and Gary's there. There are not full-time managers like the football, or like these guys have jobs, and to make bloody 20 or 30 phone calls, 2 or 3 days before a meeting, it's so time-consuming. Like, it isn't for me to say, like you guys, say how time-consuming that is. It's literally hours on the phone. trying to put the best available team together. It's like, it seems like to me, like, I haven't actually looked back, but it seems like we've had more injuries this year and probably suspensions as well than we've had for a number of years. And like, I don't really know, whether there's a particular reason for that, or whether riders are riding more and more chances to get injured, or whether riders are chasing back wheels perhaps more so these days and causes crashes and stuff. But from a team manager's point of view, it's certainly not an easy job to have when you've got a full-time job yourself. It's difficult.
I think you're right, Neil, in a way that they're racing so many times as well, and that's before they're getting guest bookings now. With them racing in 2 leagues, most of them. I'm on my phone every night watching them ride somewhere, on the updates, and just praying that they have a good meeting, because obviously confidence builds, points.
Yeah, of course,
but also that just by the end of the meeting, they haven't got a withdrawn next to their name, because that's just in going back to the guest situation just for a second. Like last Friday at Scunthorpe, we had to run rider replacement, and it wasn't for the want of trying. But again, it was a Friday. There was no riders available, and we had to sit down and think, hang on. We had got down to the likes of 5-point riders for Eric, and we just thought that Lewis and Charles and could score more than 5 points. As it happens, I think it ended up getting about 5. But again, that was because it was a Friday and everybody else rides on a Friday.
Yeah, that's it, Gavin, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's difficult, mate. It is.
Yeah.
Mm.
And the other side to that is you've got, Friday night, Saturday nights, and when we did have meetings on Sundays, they're the popular nights to have a Speedway meeting on. A lot of people won't travel on a weeknight, fans wise. I think Oxford has hit it lucky because they have their meetings on, is it a Tuesday and a Wednesday that Oxford will have their meetings, and they've been having the fans that have been coming there. It's been brilliant for them, but being able to move it. I mean, I don't know what the statistics were on it, but Gavin, you might know. The change from Thursday at Redcar to Friday, did that bring more of a crowd in? Was it more of a, people would travel a bit further being on a Friday so they don't have to get up for work on the Saturday? Was that the idea behind that?
Well, no, the idea why we had to switch in many other clubs was because the Elite League, as it was, took a Monday and a Thursday, didn't, as the 2 race nights. Yeah. So we didn't get a choice. We had to change. And we chose a Friday, and I don't think it's benefited Redcar one bit really on a Friday, because, as you say, you might get the odd away fan, which you would probably normally get, because, to be fair, it's a die-hard sort of support that's supporting Speedway now anyway. But we also missed out on the people who'd gone to Redcar for 25, 30 years on a Thursday, and they did other things on a Friday. So I think if you speak to sort of Jamie and I think it's balanced itself out, but it does just make it so much more difficult that then Glasgow jumped from a Sunday to a Friday. Edinburgh already were a Friday, and all of a sudden you've got Scunthorpe a Friday.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, because you've been taking your race night, which is a Thursday, out the way. All of a sudden,
priorities are further down the table, aren't they, Gavin? Yeah,
that's it. We ended up having to do Sundays. Now we know when Nearest and Dearest, who sadly are no longer up the road there at Newcastle, they've been a Sunday club for years, but we had to run on a Sunday, and then you had you can't run at the same time as us because even though we're not within that 30 mile or whatever it is, but it was still you're clashing because there is people supported both teams. So it didn't make life easy when they did it. I know why they did it, because we wanted
to attract Gavin, didn't they?
We wanted to attract the top riders to British Speedway, the Elite League, and by having fixed nights, it stayed away from Sweden and Poland and all that. But
and that aged well.
And it probably caused the championship teams a lot more hassle. Sadly, and did the Elite League benefit from it? I don't know. I'm not so sure,
It's a bit of a difficult one, and it's something that we could go on about for hours. The way it is, go into the one big league and whatever else, and have like a national team, national league. Sorry, and yeah, it's one of them ones that will it ever change? Will it stay the same? Who knows? But we can always cross our fingers and hope that things do eventually get better. And getting on to the point of things getting better. What a good turnout for Team GB for the under-21s in the Speedway Nations, and well done yourself, Neil, on getting a medal for that. You must have been quite chuffed with the boys there, were you?
Oh, absolutely, mate. From an under-21 point of view, like that was our 5th medal in 5 years, which was a massive achievement. Going into Friday night, you sort of look at the lineup, and there were 6 other very, very strong nations, some really strong riders in that field. And like with all due respect, like I know that probably a lot of British supporters probably wouldn't have heard of most of those riders, but sort of going into Friday night, I was saying that like every team had at least one standout rider, including us in Tom. To be fair. And it was really important what the second rider was going to do, for the teams to be a success. But for us to again, get a bronze medal for the 4th time out of 5 years, and the other year was a silver. There was a massive achievement for the boys, and everyone that was part of it, did a great job, and really proud again, definitely.
No, I mean, I would say myself, just watching, both meetings. It was almost that the Speedway Nations 2 had that little bit more entertainment value in it than the. Not to say that the Speedway Nations wasn't great, but you've got some. I don't know if it's just because of the talent thing coming through, of that mystery of this name that I've never heard of before that's pulling up the tapes, wearing the race jacket of whatever nationality it is. Is he going to be any good, or has he just been put in there because of they were running out of riders? And turns out most of these boys were pretty good. So yeah, it was an entertaining meeting.
To be honest, Greg, like I often think that I'm like really biased towards like under-21 events, but and anyone that was fortunate enough to be at Redcar, a couple of weeks ago for that under-19 championship, to me, honestly, like I couldn't sell Speedway better than that British under-19 final. And even though, like name-wise, that there's obviously bigger names in British Speedway, to me, you will not see better racing anywhere than you did at Redcar on that Thursday night. It was, as good as any GP that you'll watch. And
everybody that's in here just now was at that meeting, and I would put my hands up and say that the most exciting was probably the most gutting moment of that meeting was the race off for third. I agree. If Nathan hadn't crashed there, I mean, it was already becoming one of the best races I'd ever seen at Redcar. It was unbelievable. The three of them just were not giving each other an inch, and that was basically what the meeting was like. The same way when Harry and Nathan, was it Nathan and Harry that tangled on the back straight? How they separated there and never caused a serious crash was crazy. And I mean, and for Leon to go through the card the way that he did, I mean, he looked like he was confident and went out there and was just there to do the job and get the trophy. But I would say for that final, that would be a pretty nerve-wracking thing for him to do that.
Sure, mate. Yeah. In fairness to Jake, Jake was super fast too, and he was coming from the back and had speed. And although Leon, was without doubt like the biggest name there, you've still got a job to do. And like I heard, Leon's like press conference afterwards saying that it's a big pressure meeting because it's just 5 races. There's no second chances, and one slip and the title's gone, mate. So like it's a big pressure meeting, definitely. But going back to that particular night, if British Speedway want to sell British Speedway to any sponsors or TV companies, and was to show that meeting. Honestly, it was absolutely fantastic. And in fairness, to like sell under 21 Speedway, like I've been watching, like the British under 19 finals since, well, the first one that I really watched was like 2009, and I've seen everyone since. And that particular event, like I'm guessing it must be just purely down to the age group, but like whichever track it's been held at, and it's been held at many different tracks, the racing at those British finals have been probably the best I've seen, in every season. And we was all fortunate to go to Redcar, which is probably fair to say, along with Bellevue, probably one of the best racetracks in British Speedway currently. And the mix of the 16 riders and a great racetrack, it was a real special night. And anyone that hasn't watched the live stream, it's probably worth watching. If not now, probably during the winter.
Certainly there, because it was a fantastic meeting. Moving back to the final that was on Friday night, do you think that you may have gotten a better chance of a silver if we had used the number 3 rider in Denmark?
Quite possibly. Like hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? Obviously been thinking about it a lot since. Like I know a lot has been said about the reasons why we didn't do it, but obviously Leon was upset about it, which I totally understand. Like I've spoken with Leon about it, and obviously that we will never know. But I just honestly, did the best that I thought on the night. The actual plan before the meeting was to use all 3 riders. But as the actual heats worked out, I was actually going to use Leon in the heat after we raced Latvia. And then we got a 7-2, and it was difficult then to make a change. And then you sort of get to a point where it's perhaps even too late to introduce a sort of new rider into the field. But, it's a difficult one. And, maybe we possibly would have got, like higher on the rostrum, but obviously we'll never know that now.
That's the thing, and I mean, to look at it the other way is that also that Leon was he not the fastest out the Brits in the practice that they had as well?
Tom,
was it Tom?
Yeah, Tom was fastest, yeah.
But and Leon would be second.
Well, yeah, like it was fractional, but yeah, like obviously get your point, and like I know that there's a lot of disappointed people, and but as a team manager, both Gavin and Gary will know that you don't always please everyone all the time, but you just do what you think's best at the time, and that's what I did, rightly or wrongly. And the positives from it is that we actually got a medal. I've had a bit of negativity this week, but I can only think the sort of negative conversations between like the Danish teams and Denmark on the home soil didn't get on the rostrum in either event, and even the Swedish under 21 team, we actually found out prior to the meeting Friday night that the team that comes bottom Friday actually are not in the Speedway of Nations 2 next year. So Sweden actually got relegated, which is, I can only imagine what their conversation is this week. So,
that's
for us,
quite harsh, that isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, Greg. So,
and is that in both? Is that in both?
No, just the under 21s. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, because the actual seniors is like a qualification anyway, isn't it?
Right.
Like they have the semi-finals, but the Speedway of Nations 2 it's just a one-off final. And as I said, us as team managers got told that probably like an hour before the start that the team that would come bottom would get relegated from next year's championship. So there was different pressures there, and like went into the meeting, just trying to get as many points as we possibly can. And I gave Tom the inside gates in every race bar one, which possibly again was sort of right or wrong, but again, I did it for the right reasons, not because I like Tom better than I like anyone else. Absolutely not. I did it, for Team GB to get as many points as we possibly could and to see where we would end up.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and if you had gotten gold and went through the whole card and won it, and Leon never jumped on a bike at all, nobody would have ever criticised anything. I mean, it's it's a heat of the moment to make decisions, to do things, and like you say, if you're going to use them after after the race with Latvia, and then obviously getting the 5-1 or the 7-2, sorry, then that's fair enough. You don't know what's round the corner with Speedway. It's a
Well, to be
difficult
honest,
thing.
Craig, like every decision was mine. So I'm absolutely not passing the buck. But like Ollie Allen was in the pits as well, and I actually said to him, like the boys got pushed off for the Latvian race, and I actually said to Ollie, I'm going to use Leon in the next race against Sweden, unless we get a 7-2, and sort of laughed at him really. But you could also look at it that we got that 7-2 against Latvia. It was only Tom and Drew that beat the Latvian number one, that Francis Gus, and it was that race that got us into the top three on countback.
Yeah.
So it's there's like many different ways that of looking at it. It's a world championship final. Like we are not there to just playing around. We are there in a world championship final to try and score as many points as we possibly can, and that's like don't get me wrong. There's no one that wants gold more than me. I 100% want gold, and like in every single year I've done the very best that I can do to get it. But unfortunately, it's a competition where there's like a reserve or a third rider, and like it isn't the first year that rider's been upset for one reason or another, and I totally get that, and I could take it on board. And as I said, like I've actually had a conversation with Leon this week, and we've, like, I wouldn't say cleared the air because we haven't fallen out, but understandably, sort of Leon was disappointed, and in fairness, Greg, I would be disappointed if Leon wasn't disappointed.
Yes,
because it's good that Leon wants it as much as he does. If he didn't, and wasn't bothered about riding, then again, that would be the wrong attitude. So, like in a sort of weird way, like I'm glad Leon was chomping at the bit to get a ride, of course, and was disappointed that he didn't. But I can 100% is like it isn't about personalities. It's about my opinion of trying to get as many points as we possibly could on that night, on that track.
It's not it's not about personalities. If it was based on personalities, Leon wouldn't have a team place in Berwick. But I can see it there, and I mean, I guess if there was any heat on you, the social media side of things, the people slagging it off or whatever, I think it would be pretty quickly brushed over by the British final, which seemed to cause a hell of a lot of controversy on Monday night. It went a bit crazy on the social media. I don't know about anybody else here, but I personally think that every decision that was made there was the right decision. Adam Ellis never got his chance to be a wild card at Cardiff, even though he won the British final. If they had just given the British final to whoever had scored the highest points or the fastest time, a little way that's kind of a farce, because the British champion wants to, tell the grandkids in 20, 30 years, I won that because I raced hard for it, not because it was on countback. But I think it was the right decision. As everybody else, sort of, what's their views on it?
I was obviously there, and I think I can see Tom and Bomber's argument, because they must have been a riders' briefing beforehand, and they were told that we need to get cracked on, and if the rain comes and a result's called after 3 heats, it'll be a result.
After heat 12 go, yeah. After
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
done 3, yeah.
Yeah. So
3 heats each.
yeah. So that was all fine, but then you had the total higgledy-piggledy where Tom had beaten Dan, but Bomber hadn't beaten Tom or Dan, so there was no way to decipher it on countback. And nobody wants to be a British champion over a race time, that is for sure.
Yeah.
And I think a majority of the boys, from what I can gather from Leon and Bomber, was they all wanted to win the championship on merit. And fair play to Rob and Damien. I know Damien's had a bit of stick for putting Adam in because he's a Sheffield boy, but as much as I'm gutted for Bomber because I know how much he wanted it being the 20th year at Cardiff and blah blah blah, but the same time Adam still is British champion, so he earns his wings or his tassels
Yes.
as Monday night showed. I very much doubt after Monday night they'll be going to Cardiff though.
I hope they do. I hope they do.
But yeah, I think it definitely was the right call. But like I said, at the same time, I understand Bomber and Tom's frustration. Although Bomber did have the second fastest time, so Tom would have just been reserve anyway. But yeah, it's super difficult, and the BSBL will have lost a lot of money on Monday night.
Yeah,
a lot of money, and they're getting some flack for that decision. But it'll be astronomical how much money they'll lose having to restage that. So fair play to them for doing that, and yeah, it's I think in the circumstances it probably is the right call.
To be
Any
honest,
decision
Gary,
would have gotten.
yeah. To be honest, Gary, like you was there, I wasn't there, but I think for me, probably the biggest frustration was the length of time that it was decided, wasn't it? Yeah, and it was raining quite hard, so I understand.
Yeah, it was. They kind of
Yeah.
started drizzling on after the first 4 heats, and you could see it was just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then after the third block, it absolutely pissed down. So I think there was a bit of a 50-50 thing whether they were going to carry on. Obviously, there was a few boys that had got a set up good for the wet slick track, and I'm pretty sure they're the boys that probably wanted to carry on. But it was
Bomber have the grass
impossible,
track bike in the van.
Honestly, it would have been dangerous. It wasn't like
it wasn't Speedway. Yeah.
Nah, and it wasn't a track when Danny King won it in the wet. It had dirt on it that night.
Yeah.
But you could see from watching it that even heat 5, 6, and 7 they were on the fence then. So there would have been some nasty accidents. I'm pretty sure, or it would have become a total farce, and then we would have got flack for putting that on. So I totally agree that the time it took, I think because some of them agreed to ride on, and then they'd come out and the rain was heavier, so then they went back in, and then obviously the SCB got involved, and it was a total, I wouldn't say a clusterfuck, but it wasn't far short of that, and it definitely needed Rob and Damien. I think they got called in by the riders to make a decision on what was going to happen, Ari, regarding the restaging and of course the wildcards. So it did take a lot of time. It did, and to be fair, it was a very, very, very delicate situation. It's a national championship. It's not like all 16 boys were there to win it. And they all want their shot at winning it on merit and not on a race time. So yeah, I think what do you call them? Jason Crump and Calvin done a pretty good job. I think the guys in the pits were left, kind of they were left in the dark until obviously we seen Bomber coming out of the office. So it was probably pretty frustrating to watch it on the telly.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think the thing with being in the crowd,
yeah,
like
or even being on the terraces getting wet.
Yeah.
that was I
probably
think that
worse.
was the main
Yeah.
thing. We were
Yeah.
standing with Louis Kerr's partner, Charles's partner, and Richard Lawson's. And Richard Lawson messaged his partner saying it was off about half an hour before it was announced. I think everybody knew it was off but didn't want to go anywhere. The problem was, as you say, they were working out how to make a result, weren't they? They were. I think that's what happened. Was we knew it was pouring down the puddles on the track.
There was no more racing. Yeah.
And if he'd just come out, if they'd just come out and announced, look, the meeting's been abandoned. At present, the riders are having a meeting, with the BSP or whatever, with regards to the result. I think a lot of the crowd would have gone home and waited for it on social media or waited for it. I think there was the standing around that got people's backups, and then, as you say, you've got your keyboard warriors who just love to sort of have a go, don't they, from start to finish. And I think we just give them a couple of bullets for that gun that we didn't need to. Do you know what I mean?
Or nails for their coffin.
I will
No.
in the defence of Eurosport and Haley at Bellevue, there was nobody getting into that media room to find out what was going on. They had security guards on it. It was a door firmly shut. So I think even that situation was taken out of their hands. I think
that's
obviously the confusion was, I think, because some said that they were going to carry on, and that was obviously voted as going to happen, and then obviously a few boys maybe had said, I'm not riding in that, we can't ride in that. So then it was ushered straight back into the media room. So maybe Richard had his phone whilst he was in there.
Maybe he did, yeah.
I have no idea, but that door was firmly shut. And like I say, in the defence of everybody involved, Eurosport, I'm going to call them Manchester, Bellevue, and the BSBA, because Rob and Damien were in there as well. There was literally no way of information getting out there unless a rider had his phone in there. So
we as I say, and I think that's just, as you say, it's nothing on Bellevue, nothing on the bit.
Yeah.
It's just when they knew that, look, the racing isn't going to continue. It didn't take a rocket science to work it out, did it? You know what I mean?
No.
The weather forecast, once it started to rain, you knew it wasn't going to stop. The forecast was for it to be in until 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Once it started like it did, and then it got heavier and they stopped, that was when you thought, right, us who know speed, you're thinking, they can't get back out on there. It's not safe, is it,
No.
And I think that's when it took another 45, 50 minutes at least of standing around, where people sort of in the need just that little bit more public relations with people,
Yeah.
As I say, that they didn't need to make that decision of who won it or whatever straight away. They could stay in the media room and, work out what the best way around it was. It was just, as I say, the crowd sitting around next to us they were, in the love mourning, don't they? Let's be fair.
And the thing is, I had someone ask me about, how, because Gary, we went to Kent last year. Yeah. And it poured down very similar to what it did at Bellevue. And they're saying, oh, well, it was safe for you to ride then, but, why didn't why didn't they run the British final? Two ways of looking at it is, one, we kind of agreed that we were all going to do it. The away team being us, the Bullets agreed to it. And plus the fact that Kent isn't as big as what Bellevue is. You could get away with going round there. I think it was the slowest race I've ever won in my life, was going round that track. You were just a tiny little bit on the throttle and just more focused on staying upright, because you could get away with it there. At Manchester British final, the boys are all wanting to go flat out. Yeah. If you come off there and someone else, if someone slides off and the person behind you slides off, the bikes are going to pick up speed, and it would have just been carnage. So obviously it had to be rained off.
Another thing as well about that night at Kent, when that crash happened in Heat 8, and me and Kevin Little walked onto the track, I was going to call it then. Like,
Yeah.
it was mental. There's no way anybody should have rode on that track. But then you got 2 5-1s, and I was like to Kev, let's see how the next one goes. See how the next one goes. Because if you're being honest, at heat 4 and 5, you were moaning like a little girl.
Well, the funny story.
Let's be honest.
The funny story with that is my dad had said to me, just go out and just win the next race. And Kev came over and says, "I go out and win it." And I said to Kev, "Oh, you wouldn't fucking riding that and this that." I says, "No problem. Yeah, I'll just go out and win the next race. It's as easy as that." And then I went and won it. And I came back to the pits and I couldn't even celebrate because I was just like, "Oh no, I've made such a big meal about going out to win a race." And I was like, "Oh no, this is a disaster." But I got the Mick notes for that. But it was
I think
great
Greg,
night.
I think going back to the British final scenario Monday night, and I've had plenty of conversations since. I think, perhaps the only saving grace is I think everyone, understands that it wasn't an ideal situation what happened, and I think it's only fair to say that everyone's learned from it, and hopefully going forward that doesn't happen again. Which I'm confident to say that it won't. Obviously I can't guarantee it won't, but as I say, it was unfortunate, night for British Speedway, and I feel sorry for the many fans that were there, and I feel sorry for Tom and Bomber and even Bewley perhaps. But the most important thing is I think everyone's learned from the mistakes, and that it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the thing is, I know Bomber, like you say, Bomber was wanting to be there, the 20th anniversary and everyone else like that. There's more than likely a chance that Bomber's going to get a wild card shot on his 20th anniversary in 2027. Because there's no stopping the guy. That'll be his aim next. But I mean, again, there's a lot of people. I don't know what you guys' opinions on it are. The fact that the British final's so close to Cardiff. Now I always see it as that it's like you win the British final, then you've got like a couple of weeks until the big one at Cardiff. So you've got that fire. You want to keep the roll going on. Whereas if it was like months earlier, your form can drop. So it's a bit of a difficult one. That have you boys got any sort of idea of what you would do if it was in that situation, or would it be fine the way it is?
Me personally, I think it's ideal the way it is because, the quality of riders that we've got to compete in a high class event like the British final. We need that time until we get more coming through to be able to sell 2 semi-finals or even one semi-final. I think we need the time to get the best 16 riders at that time or the best 16 riders on form throughout the season. And I think a lot of the emphasis on it is obviously the prize of getting Cardiff. We are the only country that does that. Let's not forget that. Like every other country, somebody's
just
pick.
nominates. Yeah. Right, yeah.
So I think that thing is pretty cool. 2 weeks, maybe a little bit too close, but at the same time, we're all trying to run league seasons and get it in between World Cups, Speedway Nations, Polish meetings that take up a lot of time. So I think it's in the perfect time, the start of August. Who would have thought the start of August it would have been pissing down?
Exactly.
Nobody really.
It is. It is Manchester, though, isn't it? Let's
and you were there,
and I was there. Yes,
To be honest, Greg, I sort of echo Gary's thoughts there. I think the timing is actually quite good, and again, it's the 1st of August, and like we've seen Bellevue take rain before, like even if it was just a bit of rain, again, I wasn't there, but even if it was a bit of rain, I think it still would have, or could have gone ahead. And again, back in what Gary just said is that everyone's working around FIM events, FIM European events, Polish League. There's like going back to the clubs, it's so hard, to get fixtures in. And there's just like limited dates when they can. So it's, something that I sort of thought of today, really, and I haven't really sort of said this to anyone else. And again, like it's the hindsight thing, is perhaps going forward, like it's obviously run on a Monday night, which is a Premiership night, whether, we could have like a rain off day on Thursday.
Yeah.
I
Perhaps,
think that's definitely,
perhaps leave the following Thursday free of fixtures, and that could be like the British final rain off day, in that 1 week. Whether that would work, I don't know. But apart from the one or two, well, I'm just saying that if it's a Premiership night, which Thursday is, the Premiership riders would be available, wouldn't they? And they're all Premiership riders apart from Bewley anyway. So perhaps that's something that we could take on board, or sort of learn for the futures. If it's held in Manchester every year, which it pretty much will be, I would imagine that maybe that Thursday after the Monday could be a
just
rain off day,
a reserved night.
For what is for British Speedway such an important night. Like the British Championship's massively important to these guys anyway, but to be like a wild card as well, it's like a double whammy, isn't it?
It's so unfortunate, the fact that I think we're coming into a heat wave in the near future. We've just had a heat wave, and the British finals right in the middle,
right.
and it's a bit of an apple, with the way it's just went. But it's one of those things, and I mean, at least we've got Cardiff to look forward to, which it's been badly missed. I don't know if many boys here going, or are we travelling down, or?
Yeah, I'm there. It's the start of a nightmare week for Red. Well, not a nightmare week, but yeah, I think we've got
busy.
Oxford. Gary will have Oxford as well. We've got Oxford on the Friday, Cardiff the Saturday, Sunday. I come home to Newcastle on the Monday to drop my partner off. Then I'm at Plymouth on the Tuesday, Poole on the Wednesday, back up to Newcastle on the Thursday, Edinburgh on the Friday. So yeah, it's the start of a nice little busy period. It is.
So quite busy with that. I mean, we were well. Unfortunately, Gary hit the news for us at the start of the year that the Bullets weren't getting a tour, which was gutting, because we had a blast last year.
Really?
But
I can't imagine the Bullets having a blast on tour.
But
banned from Wolverhampton.
I find that hard to believe.
That was we best not tell them stories of Wolverhampton. There was a lot of things went on. KFCs went wrong, etc. We are lucky in the sense we're going to Plymouth on the Tuesday, this Tuesday coming. So me and the girlfriend are going to stay down for the week and end
Birmingham
up going to
on
Oxford.
Wednesday.
Oh, is it Birmingham Wednesday? Is Berwick at Birmingham Wednesday?
Yeah, I'm going to be there.
I don't know if she'll want to do that, because she's kept saying every now and again, it's my holiday too. Never know, I might be guessing for Birmingham, but then.
Gary, which is further away from Berwick, Plymouth or Voyens?
From Berwick, as the crow flies.
Yep.
That is a great
Plymouth,
question.
for sure.
It'd probably be Plymouth, yeah.
Plymouth,
it is
100%.
Plymouth. Aye.
I would say Plymouth.
Remember when we flew to Randers, Neil?
Yes,
from
indeed.
Stansted.
Yeah.
I remember taking off, shutting my eyes to go to sleep, and we hit the deck.
Well, that's it.
It took me longer to get from Edinburgh Airport to Stansted than it did
That's
Stansted
mad,
to.
Well,
it was unreal.
So we actually flew to obviously Denmark from Stansted last Thursday, and we boarded the flight, and they said the flight's like hour and 5 minutes. You say like, yeah, it's like going to going to Berwick, isn't it? Or for me sort of thing. On the flight, it's mad, isn't it? It's pretty mad, eh?
Unreal.
Yeah.
Also, a question for Neil. And Gavin and Gary as well, if you can. Obviously, it was fantastic seeing Leon win the under-19. But going back in the history, there was never these progressions of what you've put in place, Neil, of these various championships. And at one time, it was just the junior champion. Any idea who the junior champion of 1980 was?
I'm going to say Mark Courtney.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Mark,
interestingly, he was obviously a Middlesbrough Bears rider at the time, but of the field that actually competed in that in that championship, there was really only 3 that made it through to become like top flight riders, and that would be Peter Carr, Neil Collins, and Charlie McKenna.
I think didn't you Kevin Smith? I think Kevin Smith finished second. Didn't he?
Yeah, but I've never heard of him.
No, yeah.
Kevin. Did he change his name? It become Kevin Little or something? I mean, I've never.
No, you're just stuck in the borders. That's why. You're just looking for sort of Bandits race jackets.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
it was before my time. That I was still swimming about in Drew's sack then.
Yeah, you 10 years before you were born, Greg. But
I think, Paul, to be fair, I think to be fair, and this is all like credit to the young riders and their families as well. I think that they take more opportunity, or probably have more opportunities now of riding in Europe, than they did back in the day of the sort of 1980s, perhaps, and having different European competitions, that they can get their names out there, get different experiences and ride in different leagues than they possibly could unless you was like a real top rider back in the day. And I think in fairness, there's more opportunities for younger riders now on the European circuit than there would have been back in the 80s for sure.
So who for you, Neil, would be that like the real stars of the future? We know that Leon is obviously, he's pulling up trees everywhere and doing a fantastic job. But then behind him, I was really impressed at the under-19 final with a few of those riders that just seemed to come from nowhere. And fair play to Bellevue for the fact they had, I think it was 6 of their current Colts teams in that final. I mean,
they did,
what's the actual sort of the way that you try and nurture them?
Well, to be honest, like me and Gary had a conversation recently. Actually, it's quite interesting that the majority of the guys that we all talk about have come up through the British Youth Championship through all the levels. So, like Leon, Jason Edwards, Tom, Jordan Jenkins, Bickley, Drew, Daniel Gilks, Paling.
I think all the boys in the championship have done all 3 levels, haven't they?
Yeah, like all those riders that I've just literally reeled off without even thinking about, and more that I've missed, have come through the youth championship, but not just riding in that youth championship, come through the levels of riding 125s and then going on to the 250s and then obviously the 500s. And as I say, like me and Gary recently had a conversation that it's an interesting factual thing that they've worked through the levels, and now there's so many of them, providing that they keep working hard and keep their feet on the ground and taking the opportunities that could be, like I wouldn't say all superstars, but, have a good career in Speedway and, ride across Europe, ride in the UK. And And I think that's really like a good selling point for British Speedway, that they've all done their apprenticeship, on the smaller engines, and then just work their way up through.
Sure. How as team manager, I was going to ask, how much influence do you have on these young riders coming through in telling them you need to do this, you need to do that, when you come to a meeting, you have to have like 2 bikes or whatever, you have to be prepared, because that was one of the things that I think, Greg, you noticed there was some of the youngsters, which they've not got the experience of like a Leon Flint, or they've not got, for example, like Ace Piper. He's got obviously, Theo that's seen it, done it, got the T-shirt. How do you ensure that some of the younger riders coming through are, shall we say, as well prepared as some of the older riders? I suppose it's an impossibility, but is there a way that you can sort of tell them this is what we expect of you?
Who was that for, Paul?
Who's
Sorry,
Sorry.
for everybody, for everybody, Gary as well as Gavin, but yes, Neil first, but yeah.
Well,
so just sort of.
To be honest, I think
sorry, Neil. My background is musical education, and my job is to prepare pupils for examinations. And I tell them exactly, this is what you need to do. This is how you get there. And somebody once said it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become a concert pianist. So I tell them exactly what they need to do if they want to get to the top. But it must obviously, we're talking a completely different ball game in Speedway. But I'm kind of curious, obviously, because of Berwick with their Duns training track, and Redcar do a lot for youth. And I'm just curious as to how do you sort of prepare these young lads for.
Yeah, obviously Gary and Gavin will give you their ideas, but I think, to be honest, Paul, I think all these young guys have idols, and like the idols are like whether it's Ty or Robert Lambert or Dan Bewley, and if they are serious about wanting to be the next Dan Bewley or Ty, they can see what they are doing to be right at the top of their game, and that's. Like, I wouldn't say copy them, but they can see the hard work that goes into it, fitness levels, how small they are, how fit they are. They can see with their equipment, what equipment that they have, what top, motors they have, and people talk to different people, and you can sort of pretty much get a lot of the knowledge of what the top boys are doing. Like, I'm not saying that the top boys tell everyone everything, but the Speedway family, if people speak to different people, then you can get some sort of gauge of what the top boys are doing to be at that level. And I think where these young guys have idols, and I think as well, going back to the British Youth Championship, sort of something that I've said for the last 3 or 4 years is that the British under-21 finals in particular, Bewley apart, everyone else has come from the British Youth Championship.
Yeah.
So even like the young guys now, like Luke Harrison and Ace and Max James, they can all see the pathway to becoming the next Robert Lambert, and sort of being in that Speedway world. The intelligent ones, if you was to speak to Jason Edwards, Jason could probably tell you exactly everything that Robert rides. They like research it. They, as I say, perhaps not copy, but they try and go along the lines of the top boys. And Gavin or Gary might tell you different, but I don't feel that it's something that we have to sell to them, because they can see what's needed anyway.
Sure.
I don't know whether Gavin and Gary
simple things though, like I noticed that not naming names because it's not fair, but there was a rider at the under-19s that was in the pits whose clutch burnt out on the start line after a while, and the second bike just wasn't ready. You know, the clutch hadn't been screwed up or anything like that. It's like there's no point in bringing that bike out the van if you're not going to use it. And Gary, you know, when he's managing the Bullets, Gary or Kev will come round. Sometimes even both of them will ask, "Is that second bike ready for you to jump on?" You know, because if your bike packs up on, you know, as you could go up to the tapes. We see it all the time. Doesn't matter what level you're at. If you're at Grand Prix or National League, a bike can pack up on the start line. If you've not got another bike sitting there ready to go, that's you lost one. You've lost your team for points for your team, wages, and you know the chance to ride your bike at the end of the day. So
or
little things like that.
Or possibly, Greg, in Adam Ellis's case, the British Championship
Exactly.
Monday night.
Yeah,
You're
Yeah.
right. You're right.
I think I think Adam would have been embarrassed by that for sure. But that's a great example, Greg. It is.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that at Cardiff a few years ago when it was
with
I
Robert,
think it was
wasn't
Robert
it?
Lambert. Robert
It was.
Lambert's bike packed up and he didn't have a bike ready, and you could see he had his hands in the air. It was totally, you know, and people were saying, "Oh, you know, it's just a kid having a tantrum." It's not at all,
No.
because his pit crew should have had that bike ready for him to be. I remember years ago, it was Golub, and especially the Poles, but I remember seeing Golub early on that there would be a mechanic with the bike leaned over running until the tapes went up, because Golub was bad for
always ready.
switching anyway. He
Yeah,
always
always
switched
ready.
his bike. But it's just that level of professionalism to see someone, you know, there's a bike sitting, getting warmed up in the pits just in case something goes wrong. And, you know, it might not go wrong, but if it does, jump on and away you go.
Look, the way I see it is, especially in team speedways, you're there and you're getting paid to do a job.
Mm.
You wouldn't go to work without the tools that you needed to work.
Yeah.
Gav's you know, you do haulage, don't you? Imagine rocking up to pick something up with a rucksack or come on the train. You know what I mean? You just can't do it. You can't do it. And that's one thing that we are super hot on at Berwick. I think it was the night Red Car was there. I pulled all the riders, all the mechanics into the pits, and into the office, and said it to the mechanics in front of the riders. All bikes have to be warmed up and ready to go. There's literally no point in taking a second bike if it isn't going to be ready. I don't care if you're at Berwick and it's your Edinburgh engine.
Yeah.
If something happens and your bike breaks down at the start, there's no use Bomber coming out with his bike for, say, I don't know, Jai Etheridge. You know, the riding styles are different. The bikes are all different.
Yeah.
It's like you need your own kit. But like, you know, going back to your original question there, Paul, like the influence that you have, I think in Neil's case, Neil does a great thing with the youths, and there's a lot of money spent there, right from the 125s all the way up to the 500s. But the main point at that level is for the kids to go out and ride the bikes and have fun.
Yeah.
And when you're having fun, riding the bike becomes easy. I think, Neil, you just had a practice day last weekend, was it, or last week with Crumpy and Danny King? They're the guys that'll probably tell them how to ride the bike. Neil will tell them where they need to be, when they need to be there, and stuff like that. And you know, like Neil said, they'll have idols. Who better is there for Jason Crump to come and tell you how to ride a bike? There isn't many better. And then when they come up to likes of our level at championship, they know themselves when they need to invest. Like, you know, what we know, the middle of August, Leon has 4 meetings left, maybe only 4 with Berwick, and he's just ordered a brand new engine. You know, so they know when they need to invest, and it's a tricky thing to know when to and when not to do it. Like, this will be Leon's first engine that he's bought brand new from a tuner. You know, the rest of them have all been from a rider who, not retiring, but one that's selling, and he's been lucky. He's got some great kit of great riders. So, but now he's at the level where he needs to push on, and I'll not say do his own thing because he's already doing that, but get something new and take that next step. And I said to him at the start of last year, I think it was, you're running your own business now.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, no business makes money in the first year, the second year, or the third year, really. You've got to invest for 3 to 5 years to get the kit that you need to be to the standard and the best that you're at. And then you start looking at making money. If you go into the tapes now and thinking to yourself, Christ, I need to win this race to pay for such and such, you might as well put your bike straight in the van because you're beaten already.
Exactly.
You're beaten
I think
already.
I think Gary, as well, with Speedway, whatever level you are at, you are always looking to improve. So, whether it's Smarslick or Laguta,
Sure.
they won't be sitting still thinking, I'm the world champion, I am the best rider. Like, in every single heat that they ride, they are making changes, whether they go through the card or not. They might have 4 wins. They're still going into their 5th race, probably changing stuff on their bike to try and either improve it, go faster. And, using Leon as an example, Leon for the next 20 years will forever be improving his equipment, buying new stuff, getting new clutch plates, will be trying to improve in every single heat that he rides in. Not just year on year. We're talking heat on heat, Gary, aren't we?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
The margins are that fine now.
They are.
Yeah, and I go back to something that Ty always says, especially in Poland. You don't have to be the best rider to win a race anymore. They go out and some of the under-21s are romping it in that Polish league, and everyone raves about it, how good it is. I think it's pretty boring to watch, actually, because they're all that fast. And whoever makes the best start generally wins a race, and that isn't any different to England. People go on about the old days. Oh, Speedway was better when it was this, when it was that. And I've watched meetings from back in the day, and it's no different, really. It's just the bikes are going faster, and the gaps are getting wider. So, like Neil says there, it's heat to heat to heat to heat to heat. Like, if you walk around the pits at a championship match, there's people putting new clutch plates in between heats, not just for a meeting, in between heats. And all that comes at a cost. I think we've gone so professional now, and that isn't a criticism, by the way, because me as a team manager and a promoter, I expect every guy that rides for my team to come the best prepared that they can. So it has gone that professional where it is a job now, and we can't move away from that because we've already created it. So there's no way. It's only going to get more and more professional. But yeah, the margins are that fine. Like even at National League level, Greg, you'll feel it the same. I'll stop you after every race and give you my views on what I think you done great or what I think you done wrong, and how are we going to change it? Yeah. So it's not at the top level; it is at the bottom level.
Every level,
that'll be the same right through from the 1-2-5s all the way up to Grand Prix.
I think the thing that a lot of people miss out on, and especially the younger lads, which I'm not saying that the Berwick Bullets team's the best in the league, if we win the league or not. But I would certainly say that we've got the best team, and that's not just the 7 riders; it's the people around us. It is ridiculous. Every team that I have been to away meetings or riders teams that have been at Berwick this year, no other team has got the same level of support that we have in the pits. So I can go out and win a race, and sort of by half a straight, I could win a race. but I'll come back into pitch and I'll have like Scott or Kev or Gary will say, well, fair, you won that, well done, but your start was shocking. So you're going to have to change this and do that, or you're going to have to do this because you were coming to the corners wrong and this, that, and everything else, which is perfect because you sit back and watch someone win a race and think, oh, he's got it sussed. If he does that again, then he'll go through the card all night, which is totally wrong because while you're winning races, the other team's changing things. So
right,
you know,
exactly.
it's
You got to be on the ball all the time, ain't you?
you have to be bang on.
Yeah.
But that's that. I mean, just before we end, which has been a fantastic show tonight. Gavin, your next meeting, where are you off to next?
We've got Scunthorpe at home on Friday. It's our last one of the summer, whatever it was called, Jubilee Cup. It got changed to, didn't it? Jubilee League. So we've got Scunthorpe. Just quickly about the management type of thing and what Gary was saying. Redcar, we to keep the youngsters right on the ball, and as you say, the bikes are changing every heat. There's a bigger jet going in. There's a tooth going off the back sprocket. We as a team, we have a team meeting on track. First of all, so the younger riders, your Jasons and your Jordans, Eric will be talking to them, Charles will be talking to them and telling them exactly, you know, the setups that they're going to be using. And then every 4 races, we try and have a quick team meeting just to keep the youngsters involved with the seniors, because they'll be doing something, you know, I didn't get out the start, so I'm putting a 220 jet in, I'm doing this and that. And it's just something to keep the youngsters always knowing what the others are doing. They don't have to follow like sheep, but if Charles is making starts and he's changing his, you know, his jet or his timing or whatever, it just gives them that insight every 4 heats to sort of know how to keep up. And that's what we do. We try to stick together as a team. If somebody's getting 15 but somebody's only getting 1, we don't, that one person in Gary, you can't let them just cast adrift, because that does nothing for the team. You know, you've got to be seen as a complete unit, and that means your Charleses, your Louis Kerrs and your Eric Risses, they can't just sit there and dwell on the loads of points that they're getting. They need to be involved as a team to keep the youngsters up to speed, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And I think the other thing that should probably be, just, you know, for the future is especially the younger lads, because I know that yourself, Gav, you do the Cubs at Redcar, is probably just to say to somebody, like one of them riders, right, so Jason Edwards was running a 220 jet tonight, and they're like, all right, yeah, I'll put a 220 jet in. You would be saying to them, so do you know why you're putting a 220 jet in?
Yeah.
He's dropped his time into like 24. All right, I'll go change it to 24. Do you know why you're changing it to 24?
Why are you changing it?
Yeah,
exactly.
so if the riders, and I think, you know, if the riders understand with the jet and the timing and everything else, you know, with the even just dropping the tooth on the sprocket or shortening the bike, lengthening the bike, if the rider knows like why they're doing that, the reasons for doing that, they can figure it out when they're on track. If they're out and they think, I need a bigger jet in here, instead of coming back in and saying, oh, the bike was, you know, it was dead. So they're like, oh, you know, we'll change the timing for you if that fixes it. Yeah, they should know when they're on the bike that I need to do a jet, or I need to change the timing, or I need to drop a tooth, or I could do with the bike short. So I think educating them that way, because there is a lot of riders that will say to, like, oh, what's your setup? 58, 205, and ignition's 28. Right, I'll do that, I know. But, you know...
Yeah, the reasons why, Greg, you're right.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. So I think to
Sorry, I remember when I first started back in, I think it would have been 98 at Shawfield. I used to go up there with Sean Courtney, and there was a guy up there.
Was that 1974, Gary, did you say?
Something like that, yeah. I feel like that now. But there was a young kid up there at the time called David Stokes, who was a second halfer, and he was one of the better ones then. And he went and asked Mick Powell what setup he had on, and Mick told him, and he was like, all right, okay. And then he said, what's your cam timing at? And Mick was like, look, I'm just going to stop you there, and this will stick with me forever. And I even use it now with the bullets, especially. Mick turned around and said to the boy, "Are you riding the bike flat out?" And the boy was like, "Oh, nah." He was like, "Well, don't fucking worry about a thing that I'm saying to you. Put whatever you want on that bike, and when you start riding it flat out, then come and speak to me."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to mention a name, but we do have a lad with the bullets who sometimes comes in and he's like, "It's this, it's that, it's the other," and I'm like, "It isn't. It isn't. Just you just need to turn the throttle." Like
overcomplicating it at times.
Yeah,
don't they?
that's it.
Especially
Just
at the
get
bottom, at the lower
and-
levels. Yeah.
and ride the bike. Turn the throttle as far as you want to turn it, and unless you're riding it on the stop,
Then
whatever jet or sprocket or you're timing it isn't going to matter. It isn't going to matter. So, like, you can't
And
overcomplicate things.
And the other side of the coin there as well, Gary, is like the other week, me and Kev, both of us went down to Bellevue. I guested for Meldon Hall, and all the years' experience that Kev's got, and obviously the amount of time that I've been involved in Speedway, we were guessing what to do, because every race I was going out and it was like, well, that's no work. We'll go down a gear, then it must be that. Oh no, we'll have to go back up. And then we ended up starting on. We ended up finishing on what I turned up at the track with, and then changed it when we got to the track after the track walk. Put everything back together on the bike that was like when it come out the van, and it was night and day. Like it was perfect, and the track hadn't really changed that much through the night. So sometimes, you can overcomplicate things, and I think the worst thing is, and I'll hold my hands up and admit I do it myself. I can go out. I'll say to Kev, or if I'm doing the bike, or if Kev's doing the bike, I will set the bike up on the Saturday morning to go to Berwick and check the weather. Right, it's going to do this. This is what I'm going to do. I'll do the track walk, and I'll have too many people telling me that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and then I come back in and my head's going.
Yeah, totally confused with it all.
And then I'll go, right, I'll make a change, and then I go out my first race, and the thing is with me, I don't blame the bike. Like I will if the bike's not running right, but if I've went out and ridden shit, I will come back in, and my dad will be like, what the fuck was that? It's got nothing to do with the bike. It's just, what the fuck was that? And I'm like, I'm sorry. You were shutting off halfway down the street. I know. So whereas you do get a lot of the younger boys who, like Gary said, will not ride the bike properly and come back in and say, "Oh, the bike's terrible." It's like, well, no, it's just you were terrible in that last race. Get your finger out, ride it hard, and that's the end goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
you got to be honest for yourself, for sure.
And I think we do. I think a little bit of an education with some of these riders, because it's just they're just reeling off what they've already heard. You know what I mean? It's like you could read anything on the internet and make yourself look like you're a professional at it, but not knowing what you're actually talking about. And I think that's a lot comes with young riders. Maybe just a little lesson, not just like to make them look like a fool and say, well, you don't actually know what you're talking about. You have no idea what the jet's actually doing. Just give them a little bit of guidance, and I think it would help everybody. It would benefit everybody in the long run. But I think if anyone, if we're all good, we'll go back to the closing. So you're away. Where are you? Scunthorpe on Friday, Gav?
Home to Scunthorpe.
No, home
on Friday.
Yeah, because you were at Scunny and Zane Kennedy, which, to be fair, not as many injuries as what everybody first thought he was going to have. That crash.
I know it's easy to say, Greg, and it doesn't sound like it, but God, he escaped. From that crash.
Fractured pelvis, broken toe, and a broken finger.
Yeah,
I would take that.
At Scunthorpe, which we all know, behind that wood and behind that air fence isn't the most pleasant sort of, let's say, contraption. Let's say. So luckily, his bike took the brunt of the fence, and he cleared the whole lot. And that certainly saved him from serious injury. And that was a point of where the modern day bikes just become rocket ships, and you've seen schmoz, like you've seen the top, like once they take off, there's little you can do about it. and he just couldn't get away, couldn't get off it.
Oh, that slow motion, you can see him wincing as he's going into the fence. It's hellish, but thankfully he's all right. You'd never like to see a crash like that, and to be in the crowd to watch that and be his team in the away riders must have been, to pick yourself back up and go out after seeing something like that. It's a hard thing to deal with. It was
really difficult. Even like Charles, who's a professional, sort of been around for years. He watched it out the corner of his eye because Charles was on the inside, and he was visible. It shook everybody up in the pits, and had to get the air ambulance and everything, and trying to get back on a bike an hour later, it was always going to prove difficult for all 14 riders, you know what I mean? Or 12 or whatever it was.
So, no, you're right. And Neil, yourself, when's your next Team GB duties?
Yeah, well, I got quite a busy weekend, Greg. I'm actually with you at Bellevue Friday, I think. Are you at Bellevue Friday?
Oh, well. Yeah, I'm riding for Kent, yep.
Yeah, that's it. So I got a British Youth Championship before the Colts fixture at Bellevue, and then straight afterwards, we drive straight to Stansted, fly back to Denmark for European 250s in Denmark Saturday afternoon. So, back to Denmark on Saturday, and then the following weekend's Cardiff, isn't it?
Cardiff,
yeah. Are you going to be chilling out and having a few beers there?
Don't drink, mate.
Oh no! Well, fair enough. I'm halfway there.
Professional, Mr. Blair.
I'm halfway. Instead of bouncing about in the walkabout club afterwards, I'm doing the that 30+ thing now of the day drinking and then watch the meeting and then head off back to the hotel, nice bath and just sort of like chill out and go to bed because hangovers don't really agree with me anymore.
Good boy.
And Gary's disappeared, but he has got Plymouth doubleheader on Saturday, and then I don't know if he's actually coming to Plymouth with us on the Tuesday, but doubleheader on Saturday. Really looking forward to that. That's a big one for both teams, really. The Bandits will be desperate to get a home win because it's been so long since we've had one, and the Bullets need to keep going to get that into the playoffs. We could do with a big 4 points. So, but thanks very much for coming on tonight, lads. And I think it's been a fantastic chat. We've done an hour and a half. Certainly doesn't feel like that. And Paul, are you going to be making the Speedway this weekend, or are you away gigging?
Well, I actually am going to make this this weekend, especially because it's the Plymouth. Both teams. And just to go back on a point that was mentioned earlier, my legend of all time. Back in 1989, he was down at Hackney Kestrels, Waterden Road, his bike packed up. Whose bike did he borrow? None other than Steve Schofield went out and won the race. How about that? The opposition rider, the opposition number one, giving the other team's number one his bike to
really?
Ride.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
That's brilliant.
Because obviously back then, obviously Mr. Him and like Steve Schofield, they trusted each other. They're probably somewhat similar sizes, but that's exactly what happened.
Steve Schofield was tiny.
He was,
He was minute.
Yeah.
Well, actually, speaking of tiny, here's just a quick one for you before we go. I had to borrow a bike at Berwick in 2009 when I rode for the Bandits, and none other than Pepe Frank gave me his bike. I made an absolute blinder coming out the start, and coming out the second bend, I couldn't find the inside footrest, so I just had to hover my leg for the whole race because it was that far back because he was so short.
Because you were so
it
small.
Was that far back. I was like hitting the ground trying to find it, so I just had to hover my leg because I couldn't find it. So yeah, it was a weird bike to ride. I was like hunched up like that, but
like a miniature bike.
It was like a kid's bike. But anyway, guys, thanks for coming on. We hope to get you back on again soon, and everybody have enjoy your Cardiff if you're all going. I'm sure you might see me there.
Somewhere.
It's too late in the day, just avoid me at all costs, but it'll be a laugh anyway. But thanks very much, guys, and we'll catch up with you again.
Cheers, lads.
No worries. Cheers, lads. Bye.
Hopefully get everybody again on soon.
No worries. Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.